Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Inside NASCAR. We're at the Martinsville Speedway, where the Goodies Headache Powders 500 scheduled to roll off this afternoon. And this car, Kenny Wallace, in the Square D Ford number 81, will lead them from the pole, his first ever pole in NASCAR Winston Cup racing. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series is in Phoenix, Arizona. The Busch cars ran last night in Nashville, Tennessee. Phil Wurz is in our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. He'll take a look back at last night's action and preview today's races. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Ned, and good morning, everybody. Well, there's plenty of racing to talk about with 3 different NASCAR events taking place this weekend. The Busch Grand National Series was in Nashville Saturday night for the Bell South Mobility Opryland 320, where one rookie made some sweet music of his own. The Winston Cup Series is in yet another short track today at Martinsville for the Goodies 500, where Kenny Wallace, not Rusty Wallace, is on the pole. And the Craftsman Truck Series is racing again after a 4-week layoff with the running of the Desert Star 300. Jack Sprague won both races in the Valley of the Sun last season. Those stories are coming up, but first, here's a look at what else is ahead in this 1-hour edition of Inside NASCAR. After more than 2 decades in NASCAR racing, Richard Childress has gone from an up-and-coming driver to one of the most successful owners in the sport. Having captured 6 Winston Cup championships with Dale Earnhardt, he has now added rookie Mike Skinner to his assault. We'll talk to Childress about his involvement in the sport. Mike Skinner added another title to Richard Childress's resume by grabbing the inaugural Craftsman Truck Series championship in 1995. Skinner now pilots the second car in the RCR Winston Cup stable as he battles for the 97 Rookie of the Year. Ricky Craven followed up his 1995 Rookie of the Year title by grabbing 2 poles in 96 at Martinsville and New Hampshire. Then in the offseason, he made the jump to Hendrick Motorsports, looking to grab that first win. 97 has not been what he's expected, and we'll fill you in on how he plans to turn this year around. All coming up on Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR is brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller Time.
Well, it's more short track racing for the Winston Cup drivers this afternoon at Martinsville. You know, it's going to be hard to match last Sunday's exciting finish at Bristol, where Jeff Gordon nudged past Rusty Wallace for the win at the Food City 500. And it will be a Wallace. Kenny Wallace, though, leading 42 cars at the start of today's Goodies 500 at Martinsville, the last short track race until August. Our Stephanie Boyd is in South Central Virginia with a preview and all the latest from the track. Good morning, Stephanie.
Well, Phil, just like Bristol last week, the field here at Martinsville has been increased to a potential 43 starters. That should make for some tight racing on this short half-mile track, but it's been some off-track maneuvering that has people talking here this weekend. This is the last weekend Team Sabco will run its 2 main teams the way they are before a major internal shakeup. On Monday, Joe Nemechek and Robbie Gordon will swap their entire crews, with Tony Glover becoming Nemechek's crew chief and Mike Hillman moving over to call the shots for Gordon.
It was a business decision. Mr. Smotis felt like that's what he needed to do to make the whole effort of Team Sabco better, because, you know, basically we're somewhat 3 separate teams with 3 separate drivers, 3 separate sponsors, but in essence, we're all one big family and one big group. So, you know, it's just a business decision to try to make everything better.
The move will happen just days after Nemechek almost won his first Winston Cup career pole. On Friday, he held fast time through almost all of qualifying. But then Kenny Wallace came out with only 4 cars left to go and surprised everyone by posting a lap at 93.961 miles an hour for his first career pole.
It's been rough, you know, since 93 trying to break into this deal, and it just took a little time, a little bit of chemistry. And me and Gil Martin, our crew chief, we've been working hard on ourselves lately, and communication's been great, and that's been the key. Wasn't lucky. We ran a 19 in practice, and it was just a great lap for our whole team.
Just coming here and being so close, going early and then having to wait to the end, 4 cars from the end to get bumped off is kind of tough. But hey, well, hopefully we can have a good race day, and just shows that we do have the capability of running good, and we will.
Ricky Craven returns to the cockpit this weekend for the first time since his crash at Texas. Craven is still nursing a broken shoulder and ribs, which may have led to him qualifying 35th.
Feels good to be back in the car. I'm a little sore and not quite 100%, so practice hasn't gone as well as we'd hoped, but it's still a whole lot better than sitting on the couch.
Steve Grissom is also driving hurt this weekend after breaking his foot in a crash at Bristol last weekend. He plans to go the distance this afternoon. He starts 28th.
We've got a couple of things that we can do as far as the race is concerned. The main thing, I can move my foot back and forth, but I can't go left or right with it. And with that, fortunately, it's a right foot, and that's the gas foot, and basically that's all we got to do. So, I think everything will be fine come Sunday.
Winston West champion Lance Hooper was supposed to fill in for Greg Sachs this weekend after Sachs also broke a foot while testing early this past week. But Hooper in the Hardee's car failed to make the field, along with Caterpillar driver David Green and Gary Bradbury. So taking a look at the starting lineup, it's Kenny Wallace and Joe Nemechek sharing the front row, with Jeff Bodine none the worse for his $10,000 fine following Bristol, starting third next to Jeff Gordon. Row 3 belongs to the Fords of Ricky Rudd and Hut Strickland, while Terry Labonte and STP driver Bobby Hamilton make up Row 4. And rounding out the top 10 starters are Bill Elliott in the McDonald's Ford and Kyle Petty with his best qualifying effort of the season. Provisionals went to Mark Martin, Robbie Gordon, Dave Marcus, and Bobby Hillen. Points leader Dale Jarrett starts 23rd, while Dale Earnhardt rolls off 25th. Well, one guy to definitely keep your eye on this afternoon is Rusty Wallace. He starts 15th, but he had one of the fastest cars in practice, and he's won 5 of the last 8 races here at Martinsville. Phil, back to you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Meanwhile, the Busch Grand National Series was in Nashville Saturday night for the Bell South Mobility Opryland 320, a race we had for you right here on TNN. And in Music City, it was a rookie making sweet music in just his 12th career BGN start. Long Island Steve Park becomes the 8th rookie driver to win a Grand National event. Tyler Potter was at the race and has all the highlights.
Mike McLaughlin led the field of green in the Bell South Mobility Opryland 320. But within a lap, Kevin LePage had taken over the race lead. He led for nearly 50 laps until Jeff Green went inside of him in turn 1. The Nashville Speedway made for some great racing with cars getting 3 wide, but that contributed to the 5th caution. Mark Krogh and Elton Sawyer spun sideways between turns 1 and 2, collecting Randy Porter and 3 others. Porter suffered the most damage. Green was your leader at the halfway point, but shortly thereafter, Steve Park assumed the top spot on lap 182. Pole sitter Mike McLaughlin brought out the 11th caution when his number 34 Royal Oak Chevy got a little loose. He had been running 3rd. Steve Park, though, was the man to beat on this night, leading the final 70 laps and recording his very first Busch Series win.
All the emotion hasn't sunk in yet. I'm just thankful for Teresa and Dale. Teresa owns this potent AC Delco Monte Carlo, and Dale, pushes all the buttons to keep us going, and Tony Uri and all the guys. We had awesome pit stops tonight that put us out front all night long, and then it was just up to the driver to get the job done.
Jeff Green was 2nd, followed by Tim Fedua. Jeff Purvis was 4th, and Todd Bodine was 5th.
We had a great race car, up until halfway, and that thing broke, and then we just had a so-so race car, and we just... if we could have run the last 60 or 70 laps there under green, I think we could have warmed down because my car come around after it got the tires hot. But with that rear end broke, it just pushed off the corner, and I just couldn't get on the gas. And we just had a great run, stayed out all the wrecks, and we finished. We got the 2nd most points here tonight, so that's what we're after.
A little bit disappointed that we finished 3rd and didn't win the race, but because when you got a car like that, man, you gotta take advantage of it. But we did a great job. The guys got me in and out of pits good, and just one of them nights. You race hard, and sometimes you come up a little short, but we're happy. We're getting better and better every week. Team's gelling, so.
Thanks, Tyler. Meanwhile, the Craftsman Truck Series is running its only April race later this afternoon on TNN. Driver Jack Sprague is back in his Quaker State Chevy after spending last Sunday in Bristol subbing for the injured Ricky Craven on the Winston Cup circuit. And Jack is back where he found a ray of sunshine twice last year in the Valley of the Sun. Sprague won both Phoenix events in '96. Can he make it 3 in a row out west? Our Glenn Jarrett tells us in this preview.
The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series is back in action today after a 4-week layoff. They're in Phoenix for the Chevy Trucks Desert Star Classic. Jack Sprague won this race last year. In fact, it was his first victory ever. He wasted no time in trying to defend that title as he convincingly won the pole position. Jack also went on to win last fall's race here, and I asked him, man, what is it about this Phoenix racetrack that fits you so well?
I don't know, and I'm not going to question it. I just love this place. We could race here every week. I'm all for it. This is, I got to take my hat off to the Quaker State team. These guys are awesome. You know, we're at a bit of a deficit with these Fords, and they can still make that thing run with them. And same truck, same engine, same everything that I had here last fall and won the race with and sat on the pole. So, and we also won Vegas with that truck. So, you know, we've had 2 near misses this year. We could have won 2 of the races we've already ran, and it didn't happen. So we're itchy for a win, and we love to win here.
Well, that's all the time we have for this segment of Inside NASCAR. When we come back, Ned will rejoin you from Race World in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Don't forget, the green flag falls in Martinsville for the Goodies 500 at 1 o'clock, while the Craftsman Truck Series race in Phoenix goes green at 4 p.m. Eastern. The Desert Star 300 can be seen right here on TNN. And just a reminder, next month on TNN, jot it down, the Winston Select can be seen on May 17th from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's under the lights, always a classic race, and only on TNN. Have a great Sunday, everybody, and Inside NASCAR continues.
We're at Race World in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, an 80,000 square foot building here that has 3 racetracks, lots of race cars, lots of souvenirs, and much more for race fans. Now, Richard Childress, who owns the Goodwrench Chevrolets, which are driven by Dale Earnhardt in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, is part owner of Race World. Of course, as many of you know, Richard Childress was a race driver. He drove this car early in his career, a 1937 Chevrolet Coupe. Certainly looks a lot different from that Goodwrench Chevrolet that he owns now. While we were here, Tyler Potter had an opportunity to talk to Richard.
Well, Richard, tell us how the sport has changed as your years as a car owner have progressed.
You know, I think probably the biggest thing is the fan following and the fan group that we have today. It's just gotten tremendous. Every town you go into, it doesn't matter where you go, people know about NASCAR Winston Cup racing. If you had a crystal ball and could look down the road 10, 15 years, how would this sport be, and how much different would it be from what it is right now? You know, I thought, you know, when I quit driving a race car back in 1981, I knew the sport was gonna keep growing, and from a car owner standpoint, I wanted to be involved. Never had any idea it would go where it is today. Looking into that crystal ball, I think it's a wide open space for us, you know, with the new technology and the TV and everything going on today. It has no limits. Larry McReynolds, how hard was it for you to get him, and especially considering the fact that normally you don't like taking guys from other teams? Well, you know, we had talked mid-season, you know, that we were looking to maybe bring someone in from the outside, and it seemed after Talladega and everything, it said, hey, it's time to make something happen. So we went after what we felt was the best in the business, and that was Larry McReynolds. How important was it to get him? Was he the one guy you really wanted to have when you looked at your choice of people that you wanted to come in? Larry was our choice. You know, we had a couple other guys, you know, that were right there, and one we were really close to putting a deal together with, but Larry was definitely our choice on making it happen. We felt that he could bring leadership and a good direction for our team for the next 3 or 4 years. It seems like the team's starting to come around and show signs of life. You feel like that was kind of the way you see things going for this team? You know, I felt as good going in the race at Texas as we did going in to Daytona, and we felt we had a really good shot of winning, and we did at Texas as well. You know, we've seen so many improvements since Darlington, Texas, and the way we're getting ready to enter Bristol. You know, I feel great about where the season is, and we're back up to 10th in the points, and looking forward. Do you think it was just the early learning part with getting along with Larry? Was that the first time maybe last week that things are finally starting to click with Larry and with Dale? No, I think they clicked right off. I think it's just a matter of fine-tuning all the little parts and pieces. The competition in Winston Cup racing today is so keen. You know, you're right on that fence, and if you get a little bit off on the chassis or engine or any part of it, pit crews or whatever, you can't win a Winston Cup race. Has Dale been frustrated by the fact it's now, and a lot of the media has made it known to him that he hasn't won a race in over a year? Is that something that he's talked to you about? No, we don't keep counts of when we win or that type of thing. You know, Dale's a competitor and he's a winner. And I tell you what, it's been tough on all of us not winning, but Dale knows that we can come back and win, and that's what makes Dale Earnhardt the great driver he is he's still got that winning spirit today. You know, I've been with him now off and on, you know, since 81 and then full-time since 84. He's got the same drive. Never think Dale Earnhardt don't have that drive to win. I was going to ask you if the drive is still there, because what he's had to go through with it being maybe a bit of a frustrating year,
Has he talked to you recently about retiring, or is that not even entering into his mind?
That's not even entering in his mind. You know, right now he's got several good years in front of him. We've talked about even the future beyond 2000. You know, we're going to be together in 2000, and like I said, Dale Earnhardt has the drive he had 7 or 8, 10 years ago.
Talk about the season that your other driver, Mike Skinner, has had. Of course, sat in the pole in Daytona and leads the rookie points right now. Have you been just impressed with what he's done so far?
You know, I'm always impressed with Mike Skinner's driving ability. You know, we've got a brand new team there. It's kind of like we built 2 brand new teams this year, and we're a little behind there, probably a little further behind than we are the 3 car. But we know that it's going to take a building point to get that team up because everything about it is brand new. And, you know, we're excited about being with Lowe's and Mike Skinner.
Right. You talked about the importance of teammates when you started, brought him along with you guys. It was important. You felt the teammates, that was one of the 3 aspects you talked about. Have they seemed to hit it off well together, and have they kind of shared information? Talk about their relationship a little bit.
It's been great, you know, just listening to them talk back and forth about the cars and the racetracks and different things. And you know, Mike Skinner, he even said when he come to work for us, he said, hey, I was a big Dale Earnhardt fan before this. So he, you know, and Mike's got that drive to win, and that's what I've seen in him. He's got that drive like Dale Earnhardt, and he'll be a winner in Winston Cup.
Well, you've had 6 races now under your belt with both these teams. Kind of evaluate things from where you stand right now. Is it kind of what you expected getting into when you knew you were going to bring 2 teams along? You know, no, it's tougher than what we expected. We knew it was going to be tough, but anytime you get into Winston Cup racing, the competition, like I'd said earlier, is so tough. It's been tough, but we put the right people together. We made a lot of adjustments in our personnel and things, and we'll keep doing what we got to do until we have winning teams out there every week. Has it been a strain financially because of bringing that other team along, or has it kind of helped maybe shoulder some of the financial load for you? What it does, it really offsets some of the costs having a second team. You know, you can split your research and development and your a lot of your costs. You can split the hidden costs like the research and development. You can split those type of costs and you know, your testing, a lot of things like that. There's a lot of benefits to 2 teams. Okay, realistically, tell me what you expect, what you really think will happen with both these guys the rest of the year, with Dale, how his season will turn out, and also with Mike. You know, I'd love to have that crystal ball and know. I'd know if I'd want to leave for Africa and stay for the rest of the year now. But seriously, it's, you know, I think we're going to, you know, we're going to have good seasons with both teams, but I think it's going to be a building point with Mike's team, with the Lowe's team, and Dale's team. Don't count us out of that points championship quite yet.
Hi, this is Jeff Hammond, crew chief of the Parts America Chevrolet. In recent weeks, I've been asked numerous times about the rule changes between the Fords, the Pontiacs, and Chevrolet in regards to the front valence as well as the rear spoiler. Well, the best way to explain what's going on and what really transcends when all this occurs, and NASCAR does make a change, is our cars are what we call balanced. On this model here, the best way to illustrate it is the fact we look at the race cars being pushed to the racetrack with the air passing over the car. Whenever you cut the front valence and turn, the front tries to lift a little bit, in turn losing downforce or pressure on the front tires. Same thing occurs in the rear. When you take a 1/4 inch off the rear spoiler, the rear tires actually lose grip with the racetrack. When this occurs, most of the time drivers do not like this feel. The car is not nowhere near as stable, as well as the fact that it doesn't use the tires adequately during long runs. So therefore, when the Fords lose these, they're not very happy campers. At the same time, the Chevrolet guys, they want more, so their cars will be more stable in the draft and on long runs. So it's very important whenever they take spoiler away or add spoiler to the car to understand what is actually occurring.
Certainly a lot of the cars that are on display here in the museum at Race World bring back some memories to me, and I'm sure they would to many of you fans as well. This car number 4 behind me was driven by the late Billy Myers. I raced against that car a number of times, and I can tell you he was tough to beat. Loy Allen would love to see some of his cars in this museum, and maybe he will one day. Loy's career is sort of making a change right now, and Stephanie Boyd talked to him this week about that.
After missing nearly the entire 1996 season following neck injuries suffered in a crash at Rockingham last year, 1997 was supposed to be a new year for Loy Allen with a new sponsor. But once again, the February race at Rockingham proved pivotal in his career, as he and team owner Mark Smith decided to split after that event, just 2 races into the 97 schedule.
Neither one of us looked at it as something bad that was happening. We looked at it as moving forward. I mean, you know, the team was kind of, we weren't really going anywhere, and we wanted to move forward, you know, in my career and also in the team's career. So I think it was a positive move for both of us.
The question that I always had in my mind, though, was why 2 races in? This isn't something that you could have decided in the off season or waited a little bit longer into the season. Why at that time?
I think it was just a time when you're kind of getting started, and of course you're with a new sponsor. And you know, I felt like you know, I wanted the sponsor to stay with the team, so we needed to run better, you know, pretty quickly. And I think you know, I wanted the team to have the opportunity to do that. You know, we didn't have a good run at Rockingham, and also, you know, we had the problems that we had at Daytona. And I wanted the team to do good. I mean, it's a lot of good guys there. We just had a brand new sponsor. So I think, you know, it's something that we had been thinking about and wanting to make some changes. And, you know, as far as with us and with me and Mark, our relationship, I think it was just a positive decision. It was something that, like I say, and, you know, I hope for them, and I think for me, you know, I looked at it as us moving forward into something new.
The expectations for Allen have always been high since he wowed the NASCAR world back in 1994 by becoming the first rookie to ever win the pole for the Daytona 500. 2 more poles followed that year, despite the fact that before coming to Winston Cup, Loy only had limited experience in the ARCA series. In fact, the most races he's run in a Winston Cup season was 19 in that 94 campaign, and that's made him anxious to try another route.
Perfect scenario for me right now. You know, I'd love to get on with a team, you know, a large team that maybe wanted to get into a third car as far as in Busch and kind of be brought along that way. I think that would really help me a lot, and hopefully I could help someone's Winston Cup program out through a Busch deal. So, you know, that would be something I'd really like to do. Of course, you know, I'd look at, you know, I'd like to drive a Winston Cup car. I mean, that's eventually where you want to be. But, you know, I don't, you know, mind having to back up to move forward. So, you know, hopefully something will come along pretty soon.
Do you think that that's part of the problem, that you never really got a chance to cut your teeth anywhere, especially winning the pole for the Daytona 500, you won a couple of poles in Winston Cup? Do people expect so much of you that you felt like you had to perform at a particular level that you never really got to practice?
Well, I think, you know, in Winston Cup, it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to get the practice that you need. Of course, in 94, you know, I never got a chance to run the short track races, and I think, you know, Busch is just as competitive now. I think, you know, if I can step back and possibly, you know, run the Busch series and cut my teeth on the short tracks, as you say, and, you know, that would help me a lot. But, you know, we started running Winston Cup, and it's so hard to, you know, be competitive in Winston Cup. You got to have everything right. You got to have, you know, a good driver. The team has got to be, you know, perfect. Everything has got to be perfect to run good in Winston Cup, and I think it's hard for the team to get experience when you miss races, and also for the driver to get experience. And, you know, it's just as competitive in Winston Cup as it is in Busch. You know, both of them are about the same now. But, you know, I think if you can, you know, get that experience in some of the lower classes, will help a lot.
Any regrets at all about the split with Mark?
No, I mean, I think, you know, it was a positive thing for both of us to do. I mean, I learned so much, and I, you know, learned so much. Had a lot of friends there. I mean, Mark's family was so good to me. And, you know, I think hopefully, you never know what will happen in the future, but right now I think it's just positive for us to split and try to grow separately.
And no matter which road that decision may lead him down, Loy Allen says he's looking forward to the challenge.
Thanks, Stephanie. This is one of the fabulous Hudson Hornets that Tim Flock drove back in the early 50s, and Tim was a terror on the racetrack. He earned the right to be in many Hall of Fames. Coming up, Mike Skinner, the mailbox, and lots more, so don't go away.
I was one of the guys that said, I'm not going to be like Jeff Gordon was his rookie year. I'm not going to tear all these race cars up, and I'm going to go right out there, and I'm going to run in the top 5, and I'm going to win races. And it didn't take long to get humbled up. It's pretty tough.
Well, when I'm not hurt or not sore, usually trying to work out, lifting weights, play a lot of racquetball, trying to stay in shape that way.
I think the best thing that I've seen for staying in shape is driving is basically driving itself, you know. That keeps you in tune, but you know, I'm no match for Mark Martin and guys like that. You know, we all want to be like Mark and get in physical shape like Mark, but just try to eat right, and that's the biggest thing I can do at this point. And other than that, I need to listen to Diane. She knows the right things and the wrong things.
I get up at 5:30 every morning in the gym by 6, stay there at 8:15, and I got my own personal trainer. We do a lot of workout with free weights and do a lot of cardio for my breathing and all that, and just I have to stay with it constantly. And the other thing I do is I pay a lot of attention to the seat in my NBA car, so I get the seat real comfortable for me.
We're doing stories on the 3 rookie contenders in NASCAR Winston Cup racing this year. Last week we had David Green on. This week we have Mike Skinner. He drives the Lowe's Chevrolet, which is owned by Richard Childress. Now Mike has a full line of souvenirs here at Race World. They have souvenirs for kids, for big people, cushions, jackets, you name it. They got it here at Race World. Stephanie Boyd has the story on Mike Skinner.
In a matter of just 3 years, Mike Skinner went from a Winston Cup wannabe to a Winston Cup regular with one of the top teams in the sport. The road there led him through the Craftsman Truck Series after years of running late models and a couple of Cup and Busch races here and there whenever the opportunity came up. But when Richard Childress tapped Skinner to drive his number 3 truck for the inaugural series campaign in 1995, the California native was well on his way. A championship and 16 wins later, he earned a Childress-owned Cup ride as a teammate to Dale Earnhardt. But he says even that didn't prepare him for the journey this rookie season is bringing.
Well, it boosted my confidence a lot. I don't think that I'm any better race driver now than I ever was. I think that I've learned a lot more racing etiquette, and I think I've learned a lot more patience in racing. Then you move to the next level into Winston Cup, and I feel lost. I mean, it's just like I got to start all over again and learn all them things again. And if I would have got an opportunity to go Winston Cup racing 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have made it. I probably couldn't have stayed, because I've took the last 10 years and learned a lot of that etiquette and learned a lot of the patience that you have to be there at the end of the day. And you know, I'm making mistakes like any rookie's going to make. That's why I said I still feel like I'm a rookie in this division. And we're making those mistakes, and we're going to places I've never raced at before. And some of the places that I have raced at, I raced the truck, and it was totally different as far as the race procedure. The track, the gate, you know, where you have the drivers' meetings, all that stuff was the same, but the race itself is a lot different in Winston Cup. And so I guess, you know, I guess the Winston Cup thing is just another learning level, and I was one of the guys that said, I'm not going to be like Jeff Gordon was his rookie year. I'm not going to tear all these race cars up, and I'm going to go right out there, and I'm going to run in the top 5, and I'm going to win races. And it didn't take long to get humbled up. It's pretty tough.
You wouldn't have known it to see Skinner his first week out as a Winston Cup regular. The Lowe's driver surprised everyone by winning the pole for the Daytona 500, then backed that up with a 12th place finish. He now leads the rookie standings through the first 7 races, but his performance since Daytona hasn't been quite as stellar. His best finish following that race was a 21st at Atlanta.
You know, we've had some cars that should have finished in the top 5 and top 10, and the days that I was flawless and did real well, we struggled in the pits. The days that they did real well, I messed up. I missed the pits twice at Darlington. I mean, you know, we was leading the race. It was terrible. You know, the Kevin Hamlin and David and everybody, they did great pit strategy to get us in position to where we were going to stay in the top 5 the rest of the day. And the driver made an error. So that's a rookie deal. I won't do it when I go back. I know how to get in the pits now. You know, I want to fall into the, you know, the same category as Davey Allison did. I want to be a rookie that went out and was competitive his first year and maybe win a race, or Jeff Gordon 2 years after his rookie season, 2 or 3 years, whatever it was, win the championship. I think I really look up to those guys, especially now that I'm here and I see how tough it is.
Because of his success in the Truck Series, Skinner says people tend to expect a lot of him in the 31 crew, not to mention the fact that he's Earnhardt's teammate. Skinner's quick to point out that the teams are very different, but they do have many of the same goals.
Oh, I think this team, every week when we go to the racetrack, we don't go thinking, well, maybe we can finish 18th this week. You know, we go to win. Nothing's any different going with this team than it is that 3-car over there. Every one of these guys go to win, and we're not going to be satisfied until we win. With some of the unfortunate things that's happened, we've got a hole dug with cars. You know, we're racing their old cars a lot of places that Richard's provided us with new stuff. We got to find time to build it. We got to get it put together. When we get a 6 or 7 new cars, up to date, everything first class on them, that'll help us run a little bit better. But if I keep tearing these cars up and keep having problems, whether it was my fault or not, just bad racing luck, you can't ever get out of that slump. And this team will get out of that slump one day, and we're going to be pretty tough when it happens.
Well, thanks, Stephanie. Our next subject, as far as the rookies are concerned, will be Robbie Gordon, and he'll be coming up on a future program. Coming up next on this edition of Inside NASCAR is the mailbox, so don't go away. The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Lite. Our question today is from Tommy Croft Jr. from Athens, Illinois. Is the steering ratio changed for the different size tracks? And if so, how is it done?
Hi, I'm Donnie Wingo, crew chief for the Camel Ford. Tommy, that's a good question. The reason you run a quicker steering box on the short tracks is because of the sharper corners, and the driver don't have to turn the steering wheel as much like he does at Daytona or Talladega, where you run a slower box. Or if you run a quicker box there, you know, if he turned it too much and it caused the car to spin out or something. That's a good question. Thanks for writing in.
If you have a question for the Inside NASCAR mailbox, write to us at Inside NASCAR. Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Lite jacket and a cap and shirt from Chase Authentics, the authentic trackside apparel of NASCAR.
Well, look what I found here. One of the 37 Fords that I drove back in the mid-50s. Many of the cars here at Race World were restored by Rod Long, and he did a good job on all of them. And those of us who have cars here, we certainly appreciate that. Still to come, a story on Ricky Craven and much more, so don't go away. The Hendrick Motorsports car number 25 has been a fixture in NASCAR Winston Cup racing for many years. Many of you fans will remember this one, the Folgers Coffee car number 25, driven by the late Tim Richmond. Well, Ricky Craven drives the number 25 now with the Budweiser colors on the side of it. Of course, Ricky is recuperating from his injuries received in the wreck at Texas. Phil Wurz talked to him.
It hurts to see somebody else in your race car, I'll tell you that. Especially when it's a Hendrick Motorsports number 25 Bud car, and it's the opportunity that I've worked for all my life.
There's nobody who wants to get back into a race car more badly than Ricky Craven. He suffered a broken shoulder blade, bruised ribs, and a concussion in practice at Texas 2 weeks ago. Ever since the incident, Craven has been busy preparing for the Goodies 500 at Martinsville. Al Shuford, assistant trainer with the NFL's Carolina Panthers, and other medical experts have been working with Ricky, providing him with some of the best treatment techniques to help speed the healing process.
I'd say we accelerated the process. This would be a normal 6-week type of turnaround for most people. We cut Ricky's time. We've knocked 3.5, maybe 4 weeks off, depending on how he does on Friday at qualifying and the overall process. So we've been very fortunate to do some things for him with a lot of our resources available to us.
With what I've learned with Al and the doctors, and having been so lucky to train at the Carolina Panthers facility, they can isolate any part of my body that requires improvement or strengthening. And there have been times where I've raced in pain. And I realize now that that can be corrected. And
Craven has spent the last 2 weeks watching as Tom Bodine piloted the Bud car at Texas, where he finished in 25th place. Then he had to watch as substitute driver Jack Sprague suffered through a problem-filled day on the high banks at Bristol, where the Truck Series regular ended the day in 40th.
I think we're proving to a lot of people that once we get everything in line and getting swept up in wrecks and stuff, that we're going to be in contention for the win every week.
So it's difficult to watch from the living room of your home on Sunday, and you think in the back of your mind, you think, well, they won't run this race, I'm not there. But the green flag dropped at 1 o'clock, and you know, that was very, very difficult. But I'm not going to get back in that car until I know I can run 500 laps or 500 miles.
And that should come at Martinsville. Craven says he feels a lot better now and is ready to regain the momentum he started with this season in Daytona. He finished 3rd in the 500, and the following week he left Rockingham 2nd in the points chase. But in Atlanta, Craven finished 35th after getting involved with Ted Musgrave in the Prime Star 500. Then at Darlington, another accident with Robert Presley spoiled his start on the outside pole, and he ended up finishing 40th. Now mired in 30th in the points, Craven is focused on Martinsville and beyond.
Goal number 1 is to run the entire race and be very respectable and run just as good as I did in Daytona and Rockingham. And then goal number 2 will be to pick up where we left off and just make that steady progress and continue to progress. And then, you know, we won't have to be searching for that left-hand turn on pit road. You know, it'll be coming to us.
Of course, there's the physical side of getting Ricky Craven ready to climb back into the cockpit of the Budweiser Chevrolet, but there's also the mental side, getting him ready for anything that could be thrown at him for 500 laps at Martinsville.
The mental toughness that he has, getting in a race car, driving 500 laps, 400 degrees in the car heat. If you're not mentally tough after all of that, and then adding an injury to that, it's just, I can't even describe it. I know that very few people can really describe what that's like.
It's going to be a matter of progress, going to Martinsville and having a good, solid race, going to Talladega and improving on that, and on and on and on. And I think that the chance for victory will come real soon.
Craven says there is a sense of urgency for the Hendrick-owned team to win its first race. And while Craven is prepared mentally for the challenge of running 500 laps, he knows the demands will be high physically.
I know we can do it. I know we can do it, but I know I can't do it 80%. I can't do it 90%. I'm not going to beat Rusty and Dale and Jeff and Terry at 90%. I need to be 100%. I need to be I need to be on. The team needs to be on. And so for me to go to Martinsville, run 250 laps and have to be pulled from the car halfway through the event would be a setback for me and it'd be a setback for the team. And I feel like the team's already had too many setbacks.
The Busch Grand National action this weekend is at the Nashville Speedway, USA. In 1984, the Nashville International Speedway was a regular host for Winston Cup. On July 14, 1984, Ricky Rudd was on the pole for the 4th time that year. Moving up early was Jeff Bodine. He was driving for Rick Hendrick in the number 5. He moves into challenge and pass Rudd for the top spot. Then Sterling Marlin loses control of the 52. Greg Sachs and Dave Marcus couldn't avoid contact. Sachs and Marlin are both out. Marcus will continue. Heading into the Pepsi 420, Darrell Waltrip was the favorite. He had a winning record of 8 wins in 18 races at Nashville. Here he tries to get by Bodine, but he can't get enough grip to do it. Waltrip gave it his all, but his charges come up just a little short as Jeff Bodine took his 2nd win of 1984.
Well, he worked me over, I'll tell you. He see me sweating, and mentally I'm wore out because I knew he was there, and he knows this racetrack like the back of his hand. And to beat him here at his own track really is a great accomplishment for this team, the new team this year, and their 2nd win, and we just feel great about it.
Dale Earnhardt was 3rd, 4th went to Ron Bouchard, and rounding out the top 5 was Bobby Allison.
Time now for a short break. First, let's take a look at what's coming up next week right here on Inside NASCAR on TNN.
After 5 years on the IndyCar circuit, Robbie Gordon decided to try his hand behind the wheel of a Winston Cup stock car in '97. Gordon's rookie run behind the wheel of Felix Sabates' Coors Light Chevy has been up and down to say the least. We'll introduce you to the former open-wheel ace. After 5 years in 3 different teams, Jeff Burton seems to have found the right place to call home behind the wheel of Jack Roush's Exide Fords. Burton has captured 4 top 5s already in '97, including his win in the inaugural race at Texas 2 weeks ago. We'll talk to NASCAR's newest winner. And we'll wrap up our conversation with Hendrick Motorsports newcomer Ricky Craven as he talks about his relationship with 27-year-old crew chief Andy Graves and the Bud Brigade's focus for the rest of '97. All this and more coming up next week on Inside NASCAR.
A lot of NASCAR Winston Cup race drivers are spokespersons for various products. Dale Earnhardt is spokesperson for Busch Beer, and they have a new commercial coming up, and that is the subject of this week's Inside NASCAR Profile.
We're used to seeing 7-time Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt at work in the black number 3 car as the Intimidator, hard driving, determined, and racing for the checkered flag. But in the latest Busch Beer commercial airing nationwide, we see the pitchman, Dale Earnhardt, working, but on his farm in North Carolina. A film crew spent some time recently with Earnhardt, coming up with an effective campaign for their continuing ad series highlighting the Busch racing cans popular with race fans last season.
Dale's a farmer himself, and the farm is a perfect place to show that aspect of his life. And so that's kind of where the genesis of this spot came from. He's trying to show a side of Dale that maybe the fans don't normally see.
We farm a little bit. We grow hay and do a little bit of crops for our cattle and stuff. And I really do it not as much for a hobby, but for the enjoyment of it.
So you're probably wondering, when it comes to Dale Earnhardt, just what do racing and farming have in common? Well, just take a look for yourself in Dale's new Busch Beer ad.
To the racing world, he's the Intimidator. But away from the track, he's Dale Earnhardt, gentleman farmer. A man who cares more about working the land than his next race. Yeah, right.
Can't get NASCAR off your mind? Then look for Bristol Motor Speedway, now the featured track in the Busch Grade Tracks of NASCAR Can Series.
I got to get a faster tractor.
Well, that's all the time we have for this show. We hope you enjoyed it, and our thanks to all the folks here at Race World for allowing us to show you around this mass facility. You join us again here on TNN for more on Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR has been brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller time. Drivers, race teams, and race fans. The 1997 Simpson Race Products catalog is now available, featuring all the new products and services for '97, plus Simpson's complete line of racer and fan gear. To get your copy, call 1-800-71-RACIN and join Team Simpson today. The official conversion van of Inside NASCAR is Gladiator by Glovell, America's #1 luxury van. Glovell, the way we put it together sets us apart.